1. Let me tell you about this interesting 1970 Chevy Custom Sport Truck, CST, I found on Facebook Marketplace. This is actually quite a special find. It's a one-owner, family-owned truck since new, which is pretty rare for a vehicle over 50 years old. The truck comes with its original 350 V8 engine paired with a 350 turbo automatic transmission. And what's really cool is that these are matching numbers, which adds value for collectors. It's loaded with features that were pretty luxurious for a 1970 truck: power steering, air conditioning, and a deluxe interior with bucket seats and a center console. The original tachometer is still there, and it's got those classic chrome strip moldings, both top and bottom. Now let's talk honestly about that odometer reading of 3.5 million miles. This is likely a typo, or the odometer has rolled over multiple times, as this would be an unrealistic mileage. The seller mentions it still runs and drives, and it's wearing its original paint, which is impressive for its age. It's a long bed model, which some buyers specifically look for. At $18,500, considering today's classic truck market, and the fact that it's a fully loaded CST model with its original components, the price isn't outrageous if everything works as described. However, as with any 50-plus-year-old vehicle, I'd recommend a thorough inspection before purchase, especially to check the functionality of the AC and other power features. 2. Let's talk about this 1972 GMC Sierra 2500 I found on Marketplace for $8,000. I've got to be straight with you, this one's a bit of a project truck with an interesting story. Here's the deal. The good news is that the engine and transmission have been rebuilt, and it's got new exhaust and brakes with less than 50 miles on these fresh components. That's definitely a plus. However, and this is important, the truck has been sitting idle for 2 years and isn't currently running. That's a red flag we can't ignore, as sitting vehicles often develop new issues. The body situation is, well, interesting. The previous owner primered the entire truck, and while most of it has been removed, there's still some primer remaining. The seller calls it beautiful patina, but you'll want to inspect it in person to decide if you agree with that description. The truck shows 291,456 miles on the odometer, and it's got a manual transmission, which some folks prefer in these old workhorses. At $8,000, you're essentially buying a project truck with good bones, rebuilt drivetrain. But it'll need some work to get running again. The sitting period means you might be dealing with fuel system issues, seized components, or other problems that develop when vehicles aren't regularly started. 3. Let's check out this eye-catching 1969 Chevy C10 that's listed for $15,500. I've got to say, this isn't your average old pickup truck. It's got some serious upgrades that make it stand out. The heart of this beauty is a Blueprint 350 engine, which is a significant upgrade from the original motor. If you're not familiar with Blueprint engines, they're known for their reliability and performance. The sellers added Bear brakes, which is a major plus for safety. These are high-performance brakes that give you much better stopping power than the original drum brakes these trucks came with. Those Riddler wheels add a nice modern touch to the classic look. The odometer shows 25,000 miles, but with these modifications I'd guess that's either since the rebuild or the odometer has rolled over. It's running a manual transmission, which many enthusiasts prefer in these classic trucks. At $15,500, considering the current market for classic C10S and the upgrades, especially that Blueprint engine and Bear brake setup, the price isn't unreasonable if everything's in good working order. However, the listing is pretty brief, so you definitely want to see it in person to check the body condition, interior state, and how all those modifications were installed. One thing that makes me curious, the seller mentions many extras, but doesn't list them, so you'd want to ask about those additional modifications. These C10S are becoming increasingly popular in the classic truck market, and this one seems to be built with both performance and style in mind. 4. Let's talk about this 1982 GMC Caballero that's popped up on Marketplace for $4,500. For those who might not know, the Caballero is GMC's version of the Chevrolet El Camino, basically a car-truck hybrid that's got quite a following among enthusiasts. Let me be completely honest with you about this one. The seller's being upfront about the vehicle having body damage on the passenger side, which is something you'll definitely want to check out in person to assess the extent of the damage. On the positive side, They claim it has no mechanical issues and runs great, with 98,000 miles on the odometer, which isn't too bad for a 40-year-old vehicle. The price point of $4,500 seems reasonable for a running Caballero, even with the body damage, considering these vehicles are becoming increasingly collectible. It's got an automatic transmission, which makes it an easy daily driver if that's what you're looking for. However, the listing is pretty brief, which leaves a lot of questions unanswered. You'd want to know things like, how extensive is that body damage? Has any rust set in? How's the interior condition? What engine is it running? These are all important factors that could affect both the vehicle's value and your decision to buy. 5. Let's check out this 1969 GMC Longhorn pickup that's listed for $3,000. I've got to be straight with you about what we're looking at here. This is a pretty interesting find. The Longhorn was GMC's long bed pickup, and they're getting harder to find these days. The seller mentions it has a straight body, which is actually a big deal for a truck that's over 50 years old, and it's wearing its original green paint. With 98,741 miles showing on the odometer, that's relatively low for its age. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. The engine has a miss. Being completely honest, this means the V8 isn't running on all cylinders, which could be anything from a simple spark plug issue to something more serious. You'll definitely want to factor in repair costs here. On the plus side, it does run, and the truck has new heavy-duty tires, which aren't cheap. At $3,000, considering today's classic truck market, this could be a decent deal if you're mechanically inclined or don't mind investing in repairs. These Longhorns are becoming more collectible, and finding one with a straight body is getting rare. The automatic transmission is a nice feature for those who plan to use it as a cruiser once it's fixed up. This is one of those situations where you're not buying a ready-to-go truck, but rather a project with good potential. The price reflects the running condition. And honestly, if you can diagnose and fix that engine miss, you might have yourself a pretty cool piece of GMC history at a reasonable entry point. 6. Let's talk about this 1978 Dodge Power Wagon that's caught my attention on Marketplace. This is actually quite an interesting find, and I need to share some details about what makes this truck special. First off, we're looking at a short bed Power Wagon with 4x4, which is a desirable configuration. The seller's done some significant work here. They've overhauled the original 318 V8 engine, 5.2L, and they've added a new rough country 4-inch lift suspension, which isn't cheap. The truck's also gotten new wheels, tires, and a complete fuel system overhaul. Factory AC is a nice bonus for a 78 truck, though you'll want to check if it's still working. Now let's be transparent about a few things. The odometer's broken, so while it shows 85,000 miles, we can't be sure of the true mileage. However, the seller mentions this is wearing its original paint and body, which is pretty remarkable for a truck of this age if true. Brown might not be everyone's first choice, but original paint tells you a lot about how the truck's been cared for. At $18,500, we're in serious collector territory here. This price point reflects the recent surge in classic truck values, especially for well-maintained 4x4 models. The modifications are practical and enhance the truck's capability, rather than just being cosmetic upgrades. If you're considering this truck, you'll want to thoroughly inspect the original body for any rust, especially in the usual spots like wheel wells and rocker panels. Check how well that engine overhaul was done, and verify all the new components are properly installed. Power wagons from this era are becoming increasingly collectible, and finding one with its original paint and body, plus thoughtful upgrades, is pretty special. 7. Let's check out this 1979 Chevy C10 stepside that's listed for just under $20,000. I've got to say the stepside models have a special place in classic truck culture with their distinctive fender design. This truck is running the classic 350 V8 engine paired with an automatic transmission, a combination that's both reliable and easy to maintain. The seller's equipped it with dual exhaust, which probably gives it a nice rumble, and it's got some convenient features like tilt steering, and power brakes. They've also added new wheels and tires, which is always a nice bonus, since that's an expense you won't have to worry about right away. The odometer shows 74,323 miles, but as with most classics of this age, you'll want to verify if that's original mileage. The seller rates the condition as excellent, but the listing is pretty brief, leaving some important questions unanswered. We don't know about the interior condition, any rust issues, or whether that 350 engine is original or has been rebuilt. Now let's talk about that $19,995 price tag. While C10 values have been climbing, especially for step sides, this is definitely at the higher end of the market. For this price point, you'd want to make sure everything is in top condition. We're talking solid body, clean interior, strong mechanicals, and hopefully some documentation of maintenance and repairs. The seller is open to trades, which might give you some negotiating flexibility. If you're interested, you'll definitely want to see this truck in person, check underneath for any rust issues, and get a good look at how well it's been maintained. 8. Let's talk about this 1975 Ford F-250 Highboy that's up for grabs at $6,500. I've got to be completely honest here, this is a rough and ready work truck with some interesting features, but also some clear issues. First, let's talk about what makes this truck special. It's a genuine highboy, Ford's factory-lifted 4x4 model with a massive 460 V8 engine, which is a desirable combination. The sellers installed a rebuilt Edelbrock carburetor and straight headers, though currently it needs an exhaust system, which means, yes, it's probably extremely loud right now. Now let's be upfront about the condition. The seller's being honest, the body is rough and the odometer has rolled over, so the true mileage is unknown. However, there are some positives. The tailgate is straight and functional, which isn't always the case with these old trucks. The bed's interior is in good shape, and they mention the interior is clean. The LED headlight upgrade is a practical modern touch. At $6,500 OBO, or best offer, you're basically buying a running and driving piece of Ford truck history that needs some TLC. The highboy models are becoming increasingly collectible, and that 460 engine is a powerhouse when properly set up. However, you'll need to factor in the cost of a proper exhaust system and potentially some body work if you want to improve its appearance. 9. Let's check out this 1982 Dodge Ram D150 Prospector Edition that's been reduced to $8,950. This is actually quite an interesting find, and I'll tell you why. First off, this is an Arizona truck, which is a big deal because it means it's rust-free, a rare find for a 40-year-old pickup. It's the Prospector Edition, which was a special trim package that added some nice features, and it's a short bed configuration, which many collectors prefer. Under the hood, you've got the legendary Slant 6 engine. These engines are known for being virtually indestructible. They're not the most powerful, but they'll run forever with basic maintenance. It's paired with an automatic transmission, and the truck has some nice features like power steering, power brakes, disc brakes, and working AC. The seller's being thorough in describing the condition. Straight body, good paint, good interior, and good tires. 235/75 R15. As a bonus, they're including the original wheels and hubcaps, which is great for authenticity. The odometer shows 72,000 miles, which seems reasonable for its age. At $8,950, and they're open to offers, you're looking at a well-preserved piece of Dodge truck history. The price might seem a bit high to some, but finding a rust-free example of these trucks is getting increasingly difficult. The Slant 6 engine and the Prospector package make it more desirable for collectors. 10. Let's talk about this 1971 Chevy C10 that's listed for $17,000. This is actually a pretty interesting setup they've got here, and I'll tell you why. The truck's running a 355 engine, which is a modified 350, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. That's a fun combination that gives you both power and driver engagement. What's really cool is that the seller still has the original engine, transmission, and trim pieces, which adds value for anyone interested in returning it to stock someday. Let's be completely honest about the condition. The seller mentions rust at the bottom of both doors. This is a common issue on these C10s, and while they say it's small, you'll definitely want to inspect these spots carefully, as door rust can spread. The truck features a wooden bed, which can be either a classic touch or a potential maintenance point, depending on its condition. At $17,000, we're in the higher range for these trucks, but the market for classic C10S has been strong. The fact that it comes with its original drivetrain components is a big plus for value retention. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, but on these classics, that's less important than overall condition. If you're interested, you'll want to check out those rust spots in person, verify the condition of the wooden bed, and maybe get some history on that 355 build. These C10S are becoming increasingly collectible, and finding one that runs great with minimal rust is getting harder. 11. Let's check out this 1968 Chevy pickup that's listed for $12,500. I've got to say, this seller has done their homework and put in some serious work on this truck. Let me break down what makes this one interesting. It's powered by a 327 CI V8, paired with a turbo 350 automatic transmission, a reliable classic combination. What's really impressive is the list of new parts, and I mean it's extensive. The seller has basically rebuilt or replaced most of the crucial mechanical components. New Edelbrock carburetor, complete dual exhaust, front disc brake setup, full front-end work with ball joints and tie rods, and a thorough cooling system overhaul. The truck's been lowered and sits on 15-inch rally wheels, 7-inch wide in front, 8-inch in rear, with wheel covers. They've added an adjustable panhard bar and relocated rear shock brackets, which helps with the lowered stance. Even got a new windshield. At 93,078 miles showing on the odometer, the mileage isn't bad for a 55-year-old truck. Being an Arizona truck that just passed emissions is a big plus. Means you're likely dealing with minimal rust issues. For $12,500, considering all the new parts and work done, plus it being a long bed model, which some folks prefer for practicality, the price seems pretty fair in today's classic truck market. The seller's detailed list of improvements shows they've been meticulous about maintenance and upgrades. 12. Let's talk about this 1979 Dodge D100 swept-line pickup that's listed for $5,000. The seller's even named it Clayton, which tells me this truck's got some personality. Let me be straight with you about what we're looking at here. This is a classic Dodge D100 powered by the 318 Poly engine. These engines are known for their reliability and torque, and the seller says it runs strong. The truck's got 139,000 miles on it, which isn't too bad for a vehicle over 40 years old. Some recent maintenance has been done: new battery, water pump, and blower motor, which addresses some common issues with these older trucks. The seller mentions good tires and brakes, which is important for safety, and the bed is reportedly in great condition. That's actually a big deal because beds often rust out on these old workhorses. At $5,000, you're looking at a fair price for a running, driving, classic pickup in today's market. The swept-line body style has a distinctive look that's becoming more appreciated by collectors. However, the listing is pretty brief, so there are some questions you'd want to ask. How's the body overall? Any rust issues? How's the interior holding up? How's that automatic transmission shifting? This could be a good entry point into classic truck ownership if everything checks out. These D100S are generally pretty simple to work on, and parts are still relatively easy to find. Just make sure to give it a thorough inspection, particularly checking for rust in the usual spots like cab corners and rocker panels. 13. Let's check out this 1980 Chevy El Camino that's listed for $7,500. This is one of those unique car-truck hybrids that's got quite a following, and I'll tell you what makes this one interesting. The seller states it's got 64,000 miles, though they list it both as 64,000 and 65,482 in different parts of the listing, and it's running a rebuilt V6 engine. Now, while some El Camino purists might prefer the V8 models, the V6 actually offers decent reliability and better fuel economy. It's paired with an automatic transmission, which makes it an easy daily driver. The truck car is wearing orange paint, and they mention it has good tires. However, the listing is pretty sparse on details. We don't know when the engine was rebuilt, what condition the body and interior are in, or if there are any mechanical issues to be aware of. At $7,500, we're in the middle range for El Caminos of this era. These vehicles are gaining popularity among collectors, especially since they offer both classic car style and pickup truck utility. The seller does offer delivery, which could be convenient if you're not local. If you're interested, you'll definitely want to ask some important questions. How long ago was that V6 rebuilt? How's the body condition? Any rust? How's the interior holding up? These El Caminos can be prone to rust in certain areas, so a thorough inspection would be crucial. 14. Let's talk about this 1968 Ford pickup camper special that's listed for $15,500. This is actually quite an interesting find, and I'll tell you why. First off, this is a camper special model, which means it came from the factory with heavy-duty suspension and other upgrades designed to handle camper loads. What makes this one special is that it's a single-family-owned San Diego native truck, meaning it's likely avoided the rust issues that plague many trucks of this era. The seller mentions it's never been in any accidents and has never been used as a work truck, which is pretty rare for a pickup of this age. Under the hood, you've got the robust 390 V8 paired with an automatic transmission. These 390S are known for their torque and reliability. The odometer has rolled over from its showing of 122,000 miles, but that's not unusual for a 55-year-old vehicle that's been a daily driver. What's really impressive here is that it's unrestored and still retains its original equipment and chrome. Finding an unrestored truck from this era that's still in daily driver condition is getting increasingly rare. The fact that it's been well maintained and is coming from an estate suggests it's probably been cared for properly. At $15,500, considering it's a camper special with its original equipment, single-family ownership, and apparent good maintenance history, the price isn't unreasonable in today's classic truck market. These trucks are becoming more collectible, especially original, unmodified examples. 15. Let's check out this 1970 GMC 2500 that's listed for $26,000. This is quite a well-equipped classic truck, and I'll break down what makes it special. First off, it's powered by a 350 cubic inch V8 engine that the seller says runs excellently. It's got some nice features for a 1970 truck: power steering and front disc brakes, which make it much more drivable in modern traffic. What's really cool is that all the gauges are working, which isn't always the case with classics, and it comes with its build sheet. That's documentation that proves its original configuration. The truck's been upgraded with some modern touches. It's sitting on 17-inch Fuel Beast wheels wrapped in new General Grabber tires. They've also redone the upholstery, so you're not dealing with worn-out seats. The body's been painted in dark green metallic, which sounds pretty sharp on these classic GMC lines. The odometer shows 85,000 miles, which they claim are original. That's relatively low mileage for a 53-year-old truck, especially a 2500 model that was built for work. Now, about that $26,000 price tag, we're definitely in the higher end of the market here. However, clean, well-maintained heavy-duty trucks from this era are getting harder to find. Interestingly, the seller is open to trading for an El Camino, which might give you some negotiating flexibility if you happen to have one. 16. Let's talk about this 1957 Ford F100 that's listed for $13,000. This is a pretty interesting barn find situation with some important details you need to know about. First, let's talk about what makes this truck special. The 57 F100 was a one-year-only body style, and this is a desirable short-bed custom cab model. The truck's wearing its original patina, which many collectors actually prefer these days over a fresh paint job. It's got its original hubcaps, which is a nice touch for authenticity. Now let's talk about the work that's been done. The truck's got a new 300 cubic inch engine, that's Ford's legendary inline-six, a new automatic transmission, fresh brakes, new bearings, a new cooling system, and new tires and wheels. The seller says all the hard stuff has been professionally done, which is good news. However, there are some important things to consider here. The title is listed as missing. That's a red flag you'll need to address before buying. The odometer shows 1,000 miles, which is likely since the rebuild. They mention it needs cosmetic details, so you'll want to get specific about what that means. At $13,000, considering the mechanical refreshing that's been done, the price isn't unreasonable for a 57 F100 if you can sort out the title issue. These trucks are highly collectible, especially short bed models, and having the original patina with modern mechanicals is actually a desirable combination for many buyers. 17. Let's check out this 1973 Chevy K20 that's listed for $8,000. This is actually quite a beast of a build, and I'll tell you why. First off, this isn't your average K20. It's been seriously modified. Under the hood, you've got a Blueprint 350 engine, which is a quality rebuild, paired with a Holley Sniper EFI system. That's a modern electronic fuel injection setup that gives you much better reliability and drivability than the original carbureted setup. The odometer shows 140,000 miles but is rolled over, so actual mileage is unknown. The truck's got some serious height to it, with a 4-inch suspension lift plus a 3-inch body lift, riding on massive 37-inch Parnelli Jones tires mounted on 16.5-inch aluminum wheels. Being a 3/4 ton K20, it's got heavier duty running gear than its K10 little brother. There's a lot of practical additions here. Dual batteries, great for winching or running accessories, front and rear receiver hitches, a CB radio, thule racks, and a bed platform. It's got a canopy too, which adds versatility for camping or hauling. At $8,000, considering all the modifications and especially that Blueprint engine with Sniper EFI, those aren't cheap upgrades, you're getting a lot of truck for the money. The seller mentions it runs and drives great, and it doesn't need DEQ, emissions testing, which could be important depending on your location. 18. Let me tell you about this 1978 Chevy K5 Blazer I found on Marketplace for $12,000. Being completely honest with you, this is a classic SUV that shows both potential and needs some attention. It's running a 350 V8 engine with a fresh Holley 4-barrel carburetor, which is a solid powertrain combination. The 4-inch lift and 33-inch tires give it that commanding presence you'd want in a vintage Blazer, and it's got the desirable 4-wheel drive system. Now let's talk straight about the condition. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, but it has rolled over, so we're looking at more miles than that. There are some rust spots on the body, pretty common for these old Blazers, and the interior needs some work. The previous owner painted the dash gray, while the rest is brown, which might not be everyone's cup of tea. On the plus side, it does have new carpet, and the clean title is definitely a good thing. For $12,000, you're getting a classic 4x4 that's running and driving, but you should be prepared to invest some time and money into addressing the rust and interior issues. These K5 Blazers are becoming increasingly popular, and while this one isn't perfect, it could be a solid project for someone who appreciates these vintage SUVs and isn't afraid of some restoration work. 19. We're taking a look at a 1969 Ford F-250 that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has it listed at $7,500. Now, right off the bat, the seller mentions that this F-250 has a salvage title due to theft years ago. That's definitely something to keep in mind. A salvage title means the vehicle was previously deemed a total loss by an insurance company, often due to significant damage or theft. While the seller says it runs great with lots of power, it's crucial to thoroughly inspect a salvage title vehicle before making a purchase. Moving on to the specs, this 69 F-250 is a custom cab camper special model equipped with a 390 cubic inch V8 engine. It's got an automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive. The odometer shows 78,000 miles, but given the age of the truck, it's possible that it has rolled over or been replaced at some point. The seller describes the overall condition as good and the paint color as blue. From the limited info provided, it seems like this could be a solid work truck. The seller even calls it a great workhorse and emphasizes that it's Detroit steel, alluding to the robust build quality of these classic American pickups. However, as with any vehicle purchase, especially one with a salvage title, it's essential to see it in person, get it inspected by a trusted mechanic, and gather as much documentation as possible about its history and the extent of any previous damage or repairs. 20. We're diving into a classic off-road icon that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace, a 1973 Ford Bronco listed at $6,000. First things first, let's talk about the condition. The seller mentions that the body is 100% rust-free, which is a huge plus for a vehicle of this age. Rust can be a major headache, especially on classic vehicles, so it's great to hear that this Bronco has been spared from that fate. The seller also points out that the steering wheel is original, adding to the overall authenticity of this classic SUV. It's always nice to see original parts still in place, as it helps maintain the vehicle's historical integrity. Moving on to the drivetrain, the seller notes that this Bronco is equipped with an automatic transmission, with the shifter conveniently located on the floor. They mention that it's very easy to use, which is great for those who might be new to driving classic vehicles, or prefer the simplicity of an automatic. The seller's description of the Bronco being very tastefully done suggests that it may have undergone some modifications or upgrades. Without more details or photos, it's hard to say exactly what that entails, but it's an intriguing point that might be worth investigating further.